Neila Ramsingh, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. I'm thrilled that you're here with me today.
I am so excited to be here. It's an honor to have me on this podcast. I've listened to your podcast. You have opened an environment that gave us as speakers an opportunity to be ourselves and speak our truth.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that leads very nicely into your paper napkin. So you shared, find your voice and speak your truth. Your voice matters. Why did you share that with me?
So why I share that with you is that the world is full of noise. However, many of us has lost our voice due to trauma, due to some reason that we cannot speak our truth. We have cultural barriers, things that happen to us, but we are afraid to speak our truth, so we become silence. And this is an opportunity to tell the world that our voice matters.
So I know that for you, this is very personal, right? You had a situation where you lost your voice,
Yes, I did.
right? So you discovered this personally. What did that look like for you?
So a little bit of background why I lost my voice is at the age of 8, I was sexually assaulted by a family member. And because I was brought up with only a single dad and the youngest of 3 children, they you can't speak and you can't tell anybody, because who do you tell? It will
Mhm.
bring Nobody will believe you, number one. And this is what the family member had says. You're going to bring embarrassment to your family. So within those years, I have lived with those thoughts. And then I end up going into such a dark place that at the age of 13, I could not handle this anymore. And at 8 years old, you're just a child. What do you know? And somebody
Yeah.
had violated your personal space. But I don't have the brains to think that. And the age of 13, I actually attempted suicide.
Wow. So from 8 to 13, you're silent.
Yeah.
13, you come along and this noise where you lost your voice and the pain that you felt brought you to that point. You're still here, gratefully. So what happened?
So after I survive and I looked up and asked the great Lord, why is this? Why am I survive something what's my purpose here? Why did I survive?
Hmm.
I did not get the answer to that. So I continue the living because it seems like God has other plans for me. And so as I live my life, I carry on. I had At the age of 17, sorry, at the age of 15, I lost my dad. At the age of 17, I was married, had my son at the age of 17, and lost my sister to suicide that same year. Then you can say happy and not happy. My husband was diagnosed with leukemia, and I lost him at the age of 20. So I was a mother at 17, a widow at 20. And so I start going spiraling downhill. But here I have a son to take care of.
Right.
If I attempted this again, who will take care of my son?
Hmm.
So that again, I still have not spoke to anybody. So I blocked everything and I went into robotic mode because I need to survive.
Yeah.
So I start moving as a robot into this world. I carry this guilt and these feelings and everything deep down within me. I call it my little package of baggage that I fold and I put inside of me and I
Hmm.
carry on. But as the years go by, it gets heavier and heavier until about the age of 42 is when I finally found my voice, because I had that moment that The story is, why did I come out of all of this that I just mentioned that I went through? As I keep living with suicide thoughts most of my life, I never act on it after that. It was just behind my mind. Then one day I went to the store.
Mhm.
And, you know, people plan their funeral and they don't, you know, they do all these things as, you know, we all gonna die one day. But for me, I was planning my funeral that if I did attempt suicide again and I succeed at that, my children wouldn't have to worry.
Mhm.
I literally was going and buy clothing for my funeral.
Oh, wow.
And at that moment, I'm sitting in the parking lot in my car at the store, and I don't know what sort of intervention happened to me. The world stopped. And here I am. I'm the only one alive in this world.
Mm.
That was the moment for me that changes everything. The thought that came to me in that moment was, instead of dying, how about if you live and see what life has to offer? That was the turnaround for me.
So it was a personal decision. It was something that you came to on your own, right? That this idea.
Yes, there was no intervention of talking to a therapist, no one. Because earlier, when I tried to talk to somebody who I thought was my friend, they turned it back around, called me selfish, tell me things, and then so I went back into the baggage of don't speak to anybody again. So the mentality and the mindset I had, I can't tell anybody because again, doing this, you get the repetition of being selfish or you're mentally ill, things like that. So this was something that happened on my own and without any pharmaceutical, without any therapy. And then I start going down the path of self-improvement.
So, you know, one of the things that I think is really amazing about this and that people need to hear is, first of all, if you are feeling this way, you're not alone, right? There are other people.
Correct.
If you're listening to this podcast and you are feeling that way, you are not alone. There are all kinds of places that you can go for support. You can dial 988 anywhere in North America and be connected with a crisis number that can help you. You did not know about that at the time, Neela, and
I did
988 didn't and 988 didn't exist at that time.
no.
So there are
Yeah.
resources now. So number one, you're not alone. Number two, and here's the important and powerful thing, things changed for you in a snap. And it was a sudden realization that your whole world can change. And and if your whole world can change in a moment, that can happen for someone listening too, right?
That's correct.
The moment you think that there's a life out there for you to live, you can live it.
That's correct. And one of the message that I really want to send to people, when somebody's in that zone and they're thinking that way, a phone call or sending that message to a friend, somebody that you trust, and it doesn't have to you telling them that this is what I'm thinking. It's just the interruption at that thought
Mhm.
that you have in your head at that moment will make a huge difference.
Yeah,
Just a phone call.
we had early on, it was episode number 179, we had Molly Booker, and she's a suicide prevention specialist, came on, and she talked about this too. And she had suicidal ideations from the time she was very young. Very similar story in terms of how young she was when she first had those feelings, and she thought about killing herself every single day.
Mhm.
And for her, everything changed when she realized that she was loved just the way she was.
Mhm.
And what I think is also powerful about your story is that you realized that, you know, you could be that person who gave, you were the light, you know, and the light at the end of the tunnel, you discovered that
Yes.
you were the light at the end of the
Yes.
tunnel.
Yeah.
So, so you're saying that changed in a moment. Did it really change in a moment? Because I believe it does change in a moment. Tell me what happened next.
So it changed the mindset in the moment.
Hmm.
But life still has to carry on. That has not changed. So what changes for me is instead of putting the energy into wanting to die, is what is living like? I never had it. So how am I going to start living?
So it was curiosity, right? Like you kind of got curious about, hey, wait a minute, I'm looking for the end of this chapter. What's gonna be in the middle of that, right? What could happen today?
Yeah.
Very
So I
cool.
didn't know when I wake up in the morning, I still have to go to work. I still have to look after the children. I still have to do everything that I would normally do. Well, what is in it for Neila to do? What does Neila living means? Because I never
Mm.
done it. So then the curiosity now venture off in, okay, I start self-education. I start reading. I start start into one of the biggest thing was I start writing. I start a journaling
Mhm.
and I called it my brain dump.
Sure.
I had books everywhere. And journaling, I label journaling as saving my life because what would happen is when I sit and I start going down that dark spiral, as I said, where does it go? How do you do it? How do you live? I will write everything down that comes to my head and just dump it into the journal and leave it there. And that makes room now for me to, whatever I'm reading, I have room now to understand. And step by step, I'm starting to look at, oh, wow, I did not know this. I did not know that if I get up and take a walk in fresh air outside, it makes a difference of my perspective.
Yeah. There's so much out there about, how journaling helps you change, like effectively rewrite your narrative without any pun
Oh,
intended, right? Like Dr. Jim Lair talks about how if you want to change how you feel about something, write it out.
yeah,
And even if it's fiction, write out how you'd like it to be,
yeah.
right? And eventually you'll figure out how to make that reality. Isn't that what you're talking about?
It is because from that, I want more. And the more I get, the more I want. So I become this person of self-education. I am buying courses, I'm buying books. I am the one of the things though, the biggest thing for me is I start looking for mindfulness. I start looking to anything that will give me a peace of mind from within. I wasn't looking at the outside world, I was looking from within.
And
And
again, it was
yes,
because you got curious about what life could
yes.
bring.
And
And it's funny that the unconscious mind always wants more. So you
correct.
just got keyed into what was already there.
Yes. But I never knew it was there until I had to go, I call it hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I was strong enough, and I know not many people out there is strong enough to do this because we all have to go through our journey of life, and each one of us is unique and authentic to yourself. As much as you will feel what I feel, you are authentic to yourself. So you have to see what works for you. Um, the one of the biggest thing for me is acceptance. I
Mhm.
cannot change the past. I had to accept my body, my mind, everything went through a trauma. I had to accept all my journeys, all my failures. I had to accept them that it did happen. I can't change it, but I can change moving forward. That was the biggest lesson for me to understand and take in is acceptance and forgiveness.
Yeah. So when you changed that, when you realized that, when you had that realization and you started these actions, tell me about how important it is for you to be intentional about them now. Because this is now, I mean, you've written a book, you obviously share this story with lots of people, but that doesn't mean every day is full of roses and lollipops, right? So how do you stay intentional about that today?
And like a couple weeks ago, a year ago, I had a relationship breakdown. And the most funniest thing, I touched my heart and see if I was alive, if I was breathing, because why didn't it affect me the same way it would have affected me 6 years ago, 8 years ago?
Mm.
I would have curled up on my couch. But what I've done, I have changed my mindset, and anything that happens, I question myself, is it within my control?
Yeah.
If it's not, I let it go. I write it out and I let it go. It's not some days the
So I want you to, you said it very quickly. You noticed it. You noticed the situation. So your steps are you notice the situation. The next step is you journaled it. You wrote it out, right?
yes,
So writing it out breaks that loop that might just be in your brain. So you take it out of this area, you write it down,
yeah,
and then what's your next step after that?
I let it go.
You let it go.
And I start now. This is something I've been doing every single day. Is I go within my heart and I
Mhm.
say thank you. Thank you for that lesson.
So it's again this great thing in behavior theory, which is look at every challenge as if you'd chosen it yourself,
That's
right?
correct.
Approach every challenge as if you'd chosen it for yourself in this moment.
Yeah.
And it allows you to remind yourself that it's a learning experience. So that's what you're doing very consciously now.
Yes. Instead of going and letting the unconscious take it all over, we have to be a little bit conscious of ourselves.
Mhm.
Because I went from living a robot, just move. I drive a car, I get to the store, I go to work. Now I see things that I didn't see before. When I go for my walk, I do this walk every day. Well, I didn't see that tree the way it was. And
Mhm.
after I start living in the consciousness, I start seeing myself more. I start feeling more. I even allow myself to cry. Like I would literally start breaking down and cry, and I would never do that in front of people.
Mhm.
And now I allow myself to feel emotions.
So this is an incredible thing. I think Neela, and I'm just gonna say, uh, you're 8 years old, um, and suffered abuse from 13, where you attempted suicide, somehow survived. Your father passed away at 15. You were married at 17. You had your son. You lost your husband at 20. You lost your sister by that time as well. I mean, there's a lot of loss. And yet you're sitting here giggling and laughing about this great life that you've built for yourself. Isn't it? Isn't it amazing what you can do with a simple choice? And that's what you've done. But the other thing that you're saying is it's available to anybody. Like
It is.
this is you're special, yes, but you're not unique in the fact that you everybody can follow this path, right?
Correct. But the only thing is, I am from Guyana, South America. You can't come forward. When I was going through all of this, I also had a job. I was a supervisor in a company
Hmm.
in Canada here, and nobody knew I was going through all of this because I put the mask on and I carry on. But the time I stopped with the mask, people even recognize that you have changed. And I'm like, I hope it's for good. Yes. What are you doing? So people now curious because they see the change in facial, body language, the way I talk to people. So now they want. But what I'm
So this is amazing, right? So your people perceive the difference. What changed for you? I mean, you talked about work. What changed for you professionally when you let the mask go?
when I let the mask go, my face was softer. I was smiling more. I was more approachable.
Hmm.
And one of the things when we talked about people, anybody can follow this path, sometimes people don't know that they can.
Right.
That's
Well,
where,
you didn't know.
no. But also, I am one of those people that will take on knowledge. I call myself a knowledge junkie because when I was when I was going to school, school was my escape from everything. This is
Mhm.
where I can dive in my books and I can do my things. But as I get older in our culture, you don't go to school anymore. As a young girl, you don't go to school. So when I lost all of that, there was nothing to live. So I reward everything that I did was because something else beyond me was giving me that strength. And I pulled on that strength because I refused to give up. And I think there was a higher purpose for me is to help
Mhm.
others save their lives by sharing the message what I've been through, share the path that I've gone through and how I come out of it, that we all, each and every one of us has these thoughts. Each and every one of us has this journey. But how are we going to come out of it without reliving your past?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, somebody listening is going to say, "Well, look, my troubles are not that bad. I don't, I'm not commit, I don't, I'm not thinking about committing suicide. Clearly, this isn't for me." What would you say to that person who says their problems are not as bad, so these tools won't work for them?
The tools, you can take any of these tools and put them into your life, regardless if you're thinking about suicide or not. We
Mhm.
all go through some sort of traumas or hardship in life. I've went through quite a few broken marriages because of the baggage I've been carrying. And I didn't think it was me, of course, but later on I realized I didn't want to live with my own self. So who would want to live with me if I was like that? Now I'm open to that knowledge. So it doesn't have only to be with suicide, assault.
Mhm.
It has to be that you look at your own life as what is it that you have? You can see yourself. Because what we give ourselves is what somebody else going to give to us.
Yeah. So when you gave yourself, when you chose yourself, when you chose the journaling, you chose to find things to be grateful for, y- you changed your life, right?
That's
Because started to notice these things. Now, for some people, I know this stuff is hard, and when I've been down, one of the things that I like to borrow on is things that are out there to remind me. One of the things I love, there's a video, and I'm going to put it in the show notes. It's a video by Brother David Standel Rast, and he talks about uh, a great day, and he talks about when you open up your eyes and you say how wonderful it is to be here. And
yeah.
when you smell things and when you hear things and when you see things,
You're giving
appreciate
me
not
goosebumps
just,
now.
yeah, appreciate not just the fact that
Yeah.
it's there, but appreciate the breadth of what's there, the number of colors that are there, if you're able to enjoy them. So that's what you're talking about. Like you sort of
Yes.
leaned on these things that were already out there and lived into them, didn't you?
Yes. So every morning when I get up, instead of thinking, oh my God, I got to go to work, it's a, I am blessed and it's a privilege to go to work.
Right, right.
So I changed my mindset on the way that I think about a lot of things. If somebody's railing and fighting with me, I just stay quiet and I look at them. That quietness makes them become quiet.
Right.
So I just changed the whole mindset and it doesn't only for trauma people or anything. In my world, I'm still in the corporate world and I'm doing life coaching on the side and speaking and writing and a lot of things.
Mhm.
And it's people wants to come and talk to you. When you are in peace with yourself, people wants to come and talk to you.
Yeah, that's very true. So, I think it's appropriate to now we end every so I believe that what we appreciate appreciates when we put more gratitude out in the world, like you just said, it comes back to us. And part of that is at the end of every Paper Napkin Wisdom podcast, I give the guest an opportunity to shout somebody out. Who would you like to shout out today?
I would like to shout out to Kevin Thomas. Kevin is such an amazing person. Like he do connections. He makes people connect to the right people. But most of all, Kevin listened to me, and Kevin was so amazed that he says, your story is worth it to be shared, and I'm going to help you share that. And Kevin has not stopped until he makes sure that I get a chance to speak, share what I've been through, and how I've come out of it and where the journey is taking me. The journey is taking me in to save lives, and Kevin is a big supporter of that to do
Yeah.
that.
Kevin Thompson's a great guy, and he is a beautiful soul, and he's really very gifted at connecting people, mostly because he remains very curious about everyone, just like you. So, Neela, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and the platform that you provide with all of us, not just me, but many of us that share our story and make a difference in this world. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.